Right here we have Pinky. I mean, look at this outfit. She actually makes her own head covers. Danielle makes her own head covers, and she's trying to give John Daly a run. But Daly doesn't match his head covers with his slacks, but she does. She actually makes these so she can change her head covers every day. How cool is that? Hello, Serge here from the back porch. I'm an open, airy, and lighted back porch and more swinging room. I finally decided it was overgrown, getting overgrown, and needed to be trimmed. So at least we could get better light in here, and also more swinging room. Even with my short club, I needed more room. Okay, clipboard, we have a question. This comes from Dan Swan 2. And he says, Serge, kudos to you and your insights into the game. Thanks to you, mine never has been better. I've adopted and adapted your principles last summer and have worked conscientiously to apply them and couldn't be happier. Thanks much. Now for 2 questions if I can. So I think on this today I'll answer his first question and we'll do his second on another daily. And so Dan's first question is, up the tree can easily destroy the right knee orientation set at address either with the lateral movement or the hips and an up and down kind. Both can be ruinous to the swing results. Can you speak to the importance of this body part? To me, it's one of the most basic elements of the swing and can kill the best instruction. Okay, Dan, I think it's obvious that we can relate to that topic in terms of the importance of the right knee, but I'm going to say they both go hand in hand. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that one of the most famous players we know of, who is considered one of the greatest players that ever lived, is Tiger Woods. How he has this tremendous downward movement in his swing. Well, that means in his case, it's either it's partially caused by in the forward swing he turns his hips very hard and intentionally locks his left knee up. And I've talked numerous times about how straightening the left knee, which locks it and hyperextends it, is not a good thing to do, because the ankles and the knees are flex joints. They're designed to be in dynamic motion flex. You lock them up, you create tremendous stress and strain in the joints itself and then on up into other body parts, especially meaning the back, the lower back. And so the key of why the knees are so important, especially turning and loading into the back knee, which even though we make a limited turn and we want to, when we lift the club into the catcher's mid toe up and we load, I always talk about, you say that you have to sit or sink into the right side a little bit. Now that just means that if anything, my right leg should get a fraction more flex in it. Same concept as a pitcher loading on the mound or a tennis player serving. They go down. The key is you can stretch. When you actually put a little bit more flexation into it, you're stretching the muscles even more. And if you're going down, that means once the whole concept of the forward upswing is to when I get up here and I ring my bell and I do my bump, my lateral left shift. So when I've turned my legs into here and I drive down and I make my bump driving outward, that pulls the arms down, and then because my knee has flexed a little bit more loaded, so to speak, like if you sit on a golf cart, or what do you see when all your weight gets onto the cart? The springs compress. They accept the weight. So we want to accept the weight, so that way now if I go down a little bit, then what happens? The same thing when I get off the cart. The springs expand upwards. So I now push off. I push up as I swing up to the forward mitt. Okay? So the key is, I've always called, and will continue to forever call, the knees the levelers and stabilizers. We want to maintain as much stability in terms of our position at address, where we're basically turning in place, all right, and we load, sit or sink into the right side. So when we push off, when we shift, make the lateral left shift and we hit the ball and we push off, we're driving to the left side. When the weight reaches the left side, we're at impact. The head's behind the ball at impact. And I've always said, if you want to hit the ball straight to a little draw, your head can never, ever, ever, never, how any ever, nevers and never, evers you want, move forward until after impact. All right? And so it's in here, and because we are from the moment transitioning our weight, swinging up to the tee finish, we want to hit the ball, and we want to do what? Swing up. And so we're swinging up as fast as we can swing up. And so the levelness of the knees are critical, and especially the right or the back knee, as you asked, Dan, is ultimately critical, because the biggest mistake most people make is when they start their shift backwards and they start to lift, if they allow this leg to start straightening again, either A, because the forward knee moved in too much, and God forbid if we start picking up the foot and moving it in, and so the outward pressure of the knees is critical, because that's what restricts the hip turn, which will restrict the shoulder turn, so that we can make that limited turn to where the forward arm gets over the toe line and up in the backswing, which means we're staying over our toe line and lifting vertical where the club is light. And that's a big key to reducing that overturn, where we get past the toe line and into the sacred barrel ground, which will also start taking the club, in most cases, very, very heavy, laid off and heavy, and allows more turn. Well, the momentum can actually stop pulling you and getting more turn and making your swing longer to parallel. So all of these things add up. So the outward pressure is critical. Wide knees outward pressure is the trademark look of the setup that we have with the preloaded heavy right. And so once you start that intermittent up the tree, if you actually sink, you're actually adding a fraction more more angle into your knee. You've sunk just that little bit as compared to what? If you lift up and if you lift too much, it can stop pushing you and pulling you forward, what I call EBRT, end of backswing reverse tilt. It can lift you out of position, let your swing go longer, plus go a little deeper most likely in most cases. But the whole key is, what do you see happening now? The right leg is straightening. If you just turn too much, if you turn your knees, move them too much, and turn your hips and shoulders too much, that will start to straighten the knee. Because as long as this leg is attached to this hip and this ball and socket joint in the hip, if I turn the hip too much, as the hip goes back, it tends to straighten this knee. And if this knee straightens, the equal and opposite reaction is this one will tend to be pulled inward. And then if this whole action of this knee straightening and the back knee straightening and the forward one going in is your action, what happens when you transition and go the other way? It will eventually reach a point where this knee has to get pulled this way, as the back knee is getting pulled inward towards the ball, as the front knee starts to turn away from the ball. And then what happens? At some point, that straightening will collapse, and then we got the downward movement, which drops this more and straightens that one even more, pulling us away from the target. And it can affect everything you can have in a ball striking, from chunking to eventually having to pull out of the shot to topping them and almost whiffing them. And the ball can go anyway depending on where the club face is aimed at impact. So it is critical. Just think about the fact that we have to have a little bit of sink so we can swing up and stand up faster, because that's the whole concept of swing up to the tee finish. Remember, the key to the knees are they're levelers and stabilizers. If you keep them level and stable with just that little bit more flexation to give you that push off, just think of a baseball pitcher and a tennis player serving. They sink down and they push off and up and out. Okay? Levelers, stabilizers. That's the critical issue about the knees with the limited turn. So we started all with the wide knees outward pressure. So you start with that good setup position and keep them level and stable, and feel that little bit of sinking, and you'll be in good shape to make great swings and hit good shots and shoot those lower scores. That's it for the search for today, and I'll be talking to y'all again soon.